A wooden crate sits open in the Liwonde floodplain at dawn, and for a moment, nothing moves. Then a lioness steps out into tall grass she has never smelled before, low and cautious, scanning a horizon that hasn't held a lion in 20 years. It's August 2018, and she doesn't know any of that. She just knows the crate door is finally open, and the grass goes on forever in every direction. 9 lions in total are released into Liwonde National Park that same month. 7 flown from South Africa, 2 driven up from Liwonde Wildlife Reserve, 200 kilometers south. Everyone fitted with a tracking collar before the crate doors open. Every single one of them about to become part of an experiment nobody is certain will actually work. Liwonde hadn't had a breeding lion population in 2 decades. Before that, poaching and snares had reduced the park to one of the most dangerous places in Africa to be a large mammal. More wire snares laid across the reserve than there were big animals left to catch in them. The predators had been gone so long that an entire generation of antelope, warthog, and impala had grown up never once encountering one. No one told the lions that. No one told them this grassland was supposed to be empty. They just walked out of the crates and started reading a landscape that, as far as their instincts were concerned, had always belonged to them. For years, Liwonde had been one of those places conservationists talked about with a particular kind of resignation. A park with the right habitat, the right prey potential, the wrong history. A place where the predators that should have anchored the whole system had been gone for so long that most people working there had never seen one. The idea of fixing that wasn't new. Getting there took most of a decade. To get 9 lions into Liwonde, African parks first had to make Liwonde survivable for a lion. In 2015, when African Parks took over management of the 580 square kilometer reserve, the park was, by their own account, on the verge of collapse. Snares outnumbered large animals by a factor of 3. Human-wildlife conflict was common and often fatal. The original lion population, wiped out decades earlier through poaching and retaliatory killing, was a footnote in a much larger crisis. There was almost nothing left to protect. The first move wasn't predators at all. It was security. New rangers, trained and equipped. A perimeter fence constructed around the park's boundary. Patrol routes redesigned around where poachers actually operated, not where the old patrol maps said they should. Within the first year, more than 2,000 snares were pulled out of the bush. Within a few years, the total passed 30,000. Only once the snaring had been brought under control did the prey base start to recover. Impala, waterbuck, warthog, multiplying in the relative safety of a park that was, for the first time in years, actually being protected. And only once the prey base recovered did anyone start seriously discussing whether predators could come back at all. Cheetahs arrived first in May 2017. The species returned to Liwonde after 100 years of absence. They were a test case as much as a reintroduction. A smaller, more cautious predator, released into a landscape nobody had watched a wild cat move through in living memory. If the prey base couldn't support cheetahs, lions were never going to happen. The cheetahs adapted. The population slowly began to grow. The lions were always going to come next. They were the whole point. The only question was when the park, the people managing it, and the prey base underneath it all would actually be ready. Releasing 9 lions into a fenced park that hasn't held a breeding population in 20 years is not, it turns out, the same as releasing 9 lions into an empty field. The first concern was each other. Lions from different source populations, South Africa, Liwonde, don't automatically form a cohesive pride. Coalitions can fight. Unrelated males can kill cubs that aren't theirs. The reintroduction team had to manage not just where the lions went, But who went with whom? Staggering releases and monitoring interactions closely enough to intervene if things turned violent. The second concern was the prey base itself. Liwonde's antelope and warthog populations had recovered under years of lion-free security. But recovered isn't the same as battle-tested. These were animals that had never had to develop the vigilance, the herd discipline, the instinctive wariness that prey species carry when predators are a constant presence. The lions weren't just hunting. They were teaching an entire ecosystem how to be afraid again. The third concern was the fence itself and everything beyond it. Communities live along Liwonde's boundary. A lion that found its way through or around the perimeter wasn't a conservation success story. It was a human safety crisis. Every collar, every monitoring flight, every single ranger patrol existed partly to make sure 9 apex predators stayed exactly where they were supposed to be. Wildlife veterinarians, ecologists, and rangers spent months building a release protocol that staggered the introductions. Males first, in enclosed bomas, given time to settle and establish a baseline territory before females were brought in. Every lion was tranquilized, examined, fitted with a GPS collar transmitting location multiple times a day, and only then released from the boma into the wider park under near constant monitoring. Nobody was certain all 3 concerns could be managed at once. They released the lions anyway. What happened to Liwonde's vulture population, of all things, says more about what 9 lions actually do to an ecosystem than almost any other single data point. In 2015, there were no vultures in Liwonde, not rare, absent. Decades of poaching and the use of poison to kill problem predators had wiped out the scavenger guild along with everything else. A landscape with no large predators and no carcasses to speak of had nothing for a vulture to eat. After the carnivore reintroductions began, cheetahs in 2017, lions in 2018, something changed that nobody had specifically engineered. Lion kills leave carcasses. Carcasses feed scavengers. Scavengers, in turn, indicate a functioning predator-prey system robust enough to support the species at the very top of the food chain that doesn't hunt at all, just waits. 7 vulture species have now been recorded in Liwonde, 4 of them critically endangered. Birds that need both a stable carrion supply and enough open, undisturbed airspace to soar and search, conditions that simply hadn't existed in the park for decades. In 2018, the first Ruppel's vulture was sighted in the park, a species with only a handful of strongholds left anywhere in southern Africa. None of this was the headline goal of the lion reintroduction. Nobody released 9 lions into Liwonde because they wanted vultures back. Vultures were never mentioned in the planning documents, never the subject of a press release, never the reason anyone justified the cost or the risk of moving 9 apex predators across international borders. But that's what bringing back an apex predator does. It doesn't just add one species to a landscape. It rebuilds the whole structure underneath it. The carcasses, the scavengers, the secondary predators that key off both. A cascade of consequences that no single planning document could have fully anticipated in advance. The first lion cub, born in Liwonde, arrived in April 2020. The first lion born in the park since the mid-1980s. Nobody had announced a target date for this. There was no ceremony planned, no press release drafted in advance. The cub simply appeared during a routine monitoring flight, spotted alongside its mother in a stretch of floodplain that hadn't held a lion family in over 3 decades. For the team that had spent 5 years building the security infrastructure, then 2 more years managing the delicate first steps of reintroduction, it was the first unambiguous proof that the system was self-sustaining, that lions weren't just surviving in Liwonde, they were building a future there. More cubs followed, season after season. Prides formed, split, and reformed the way lion society naturally does. No longer 9 monitored animals, but a functioning population, finding its own territories across the floodplain and woodland, doing things the reintroduction team couldn't have planned. You can release the founders. You can't script what they build. By the time the population was established, the original 9 founders had become something closer to an actual ecosystem in their own right. Territorial disputes settled without human intervention. Pride splitting when they grew too large. Young males pushed out to establish ranges of their own, exactly the way lion society has organized itself for longer than humans have been managing parks. The collars are still tracking. The monitoring flights still happen, the same as they did in 2018. But what they're recording now isn't an experiment anymore. It's a population doing what lion populations do. On a timescale nobody could fully script. It would be easy to stop the story here. A clean ending? 9 lions became a population, an ecosystem, cameras rolling on. But Liwonde's other reintroductions, running in parallel, were proving not every release would go this smoothly. The lions turned out to be the success story. Not every species released into Liwonde got to have one. Poaching in Liwonde didn't stop the day the security overhaul finished. It just got quieter, harder to catch, still lethal when it found its target. Snares set for antelope occasionally caught predators instead. In 2021, an entire founding pack of reintroduced wild dogs was lost to poisoning within a year. Every animal that had walked off the trucks, gone. A second pack in 2024 started losing members to snares almost immediately. Lions fared better. Larger, less likely to wander into a snare set at antelope height. But the lesson was the same one African parks had learned with every species they'd reintroduced. Bringing an animal back is not a single event. It's a commitment that doesn't end when the crate door opens. Every collar still transmitting, every ranger patrol still running, exists because the alternative has already proven fatal to other species in the same park. The lions that walked out of those crates in August 2018 are still being protected today, 7 years later, by exactly the same infrastructure that made their release possible in the first place. The rangers trained in 2015 are still patrolling. The fence built before any predator arrived is still standing. The snare sweeps that pulled 30,000 wires out of the bush before the lions ever set foot in Liwonde are still happening because new snares are still being set. And the system that protects 9 collared lions is the same system that has to protect everything else in the park at the same time. There is no point at which this kind of project is finished. Every species added to Liwonde becomes one more thing protected for as long as the park exists. One more set of collars. One more patrol route. One more reason the rangers can't stop. I keep thinking, again and again, about the gap between what those 9 lions knew and what they didn't. They didn't know Liwonde had been empty for 20 years. They didn't know about the 30,000 snares pulled from the bush before their release was even possible, or the years of fence building and ranger training that had to happen first, or the careful, anxious calculations about which lions could safely share territory with which others. They didn't know a human team was tracking their every move by air, ready to intervene if the prey base couldn't handle them or the fence couldn't hold them. What they knew was simpler. Grass, open space, the absence of any other large predator already claiming the territory. And whatever instinct tells a lion, the moment the crate door opens, that this ground is now theirs to use. I find that gap between the years of human planning behind the release and the complete absence of any of that context in the animal experiencing it to be the part of this story that's hardest to fully sit with. An entire reconstruction project, invisible to its own subjects, succeeding or failing based on whether 9 animals that knew nothing about any of it could simply do what lions do. It's a strange kind of conservation success, when you really sit with it. Maybe the strangest kind there is. The measure of whether it worked was never going to be whether the lions understood what had been done for them, or appreciated the cost, or recognized the years of planning standing behind the moment those crate doors opened. It was always going to be whether they noticed nothing at all, whether the landscape felt, to them, exactly like a landscape that had always been theirs. They could. They did. Liwonde's most recent aerial census counted well over 12,000 animals: elephant, antelope, hippo, and now, for the first time in a generation, an actual lion population doing what lion populations do without anyone counting the days since the last cub. The park that had more snares than large animals in 2015 is now one of the most complete ecosystems in Malawi. Cheetah, lion, wild dog, black rhino, vultures rare enough that conservationists now travel here specifically to see them circling. Birds that had nowhere to land in this park a decade ago, when there was nothing dead on the ground worth landing for. None of it existed a decade ago, when the park held more wire snares than large mammals, and the idea of a functioning predator-prey system felt closer to fantasy than to a 5-year plan. All of it traces back to 9 collared lions stepping out of wooden crates into grass that, as far as they were concerned, had never belonged to anyone else. If you want to find the rare places where an entire predator-prey system was rebuilt from almost nothing, not estimated, not simplified, but documented census by census, snare by snare, that's exactly what this channel covers every week. Stories like this one, like Liwonde, where the hardest part was never releasing the animals. The lions were always the easy part. The fence, the rangers, the 30,000 snares, the years of waiting for a prey base to recover enough to feed them. That took a decade. 9 crates opening on one afternoon in August 2018 was the visible moment. It was never the actual story. Next week, a different park, a totally different predator, and a reintroduction that almost failed completely in its first 6 months, before something nobody predicted turned all of it around.